Orwell's warning from 1984, "Who controls the present controls the past. Who controls the past controls the future," echoes louder today than many might expect, especially when we turn our attention to contemporary India. In recent years, a profound transformation has unfolded under the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP-led government. A concerted effort to reshape how India remembers and teaches its own history. This is not a series of minor curriculum tweaks or benign administrative decisions, but a sweeping reimagining of the national narrative with profound implications for Indian identity, collective memory, and the country's political trajectory. Let's begin with the heart of the matter: India's school textbooks. For decades, the National Council of Educational Research and Training, NCERT, has provided the foundational curriculum for millions of students across the country. These textbooks have long attempted to reflect the complexity, diversity, and richness of India's past, including the centuries of Muslim rule that indelibly shaped the subcontinent's culture, art, architecture, and society. Yet, in recent years, these very chapters, literally and figuratively, are being erased. Entire sections devoted to the Mughal Empire have been removed or drastically condensed. For instance, chapters like Kings and Chronicles, the Mughal courts, have vanished from Class 12 history books, erasing nuanced discussions of emperors such as Babur, Akbar, and Aurangzeb, figures whose reigns were pivotal to the formation of India as we know it. These were not mere invaders, as some new textbooks now suggest, but rulers who governed vast swathes of the subcontinent for centuries, presiding over periods of immense cultural and scientific ferment. Yet, today's students may never learn about Akbar's attempts at religious syncretism, the flowering of Indo-Islamic art, or the administrative innovations that shaped later Indian polities. Instead, the focus has shifted. Hindu rulers like Maharana Pratap and Shivaji are increasingly spotlighted, often in heroic, unnuanced terms, while the complexity of interreligious interactions, conflict, cooperation, coexistence, is quietly sidelined. The narrative becomes one of clear dichotomies: Hindu defenders versus Muslim invaders, indigenous versus foreign. This shift is not accidental. It is the result of deliberate policy choices guided by the BJP's stated aim: to foreground a Hindu-centric identity for India, often at the expense of the country's pluralistic heritage. This ideological reframing is not limited to the contents of textbooks. It permeates language itself. Terms such as invader, oppressor, and foreigner are now routinely deployed to describe Muslim rulers, even though many were born in India and contributed to its infrastructure and institutions. Meanwhile, the term Bharat is preferred over India, invoking ancient Vedic civilization and signaling a narrative where Hindu antiquity is the sole, authentic source of Indian identity. The renaming of cities and towns is another manifestation of this trend. In the past few years, the BJP and its allies have initiated a widespread campaign to replace place names of Persian, Urdu, or Islamic origin with those that honor Hindu figures or evoke ancient Indian heritage. Allahabad is now Prayagraj. Mughal Sarai railway station has become Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Nagar. In April 2025, the Uttarakhand government announced a spree of renamings. Aurangzebpur became Shivaji Nagar. Ghaziwali was rechristened Arya Nagar. The list goes on, with Madhya Pradesh renaming Ghazni Khedi to Chamunda Matanagri and Maulana to Vikram Nagar. These are not random acts of civic housekeeping. Each name change is a symbolic gesture, rewriting the mental map of India and erasing visible reminders of its composite past. Cultural erasure goes further still. The Taj Mahal, a global icon of India, is increasingly downplayed as foreign, sometimes even described as having been built atop a Hindu temple, a claim with little historical basis but great political utility. Disputes over sites like the Gyanvapi Mosque and Qutb Minar are reframed as battles to reclaim lost Hindu heritage, further polarizing communal relations. The architectural legacy of the Mughals, the syncretic music and poetry of the Delhi Sultanate, the culinary traditions that emerged from centuries of Hindu-Muslim interaction. These elements risk disappearing from the mainstream narrative, relegated to footnotes or omitted entirely. Selective glorification and marginalization compound this trend. Figures like Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, an ideologue of Hindu nationalism, are lionized. Meanwhile, freedom fighters with secular, left-leaning, or Muslim identities, such as Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, fade into the background. The story of partition is retold with Muslims cast primarily as aggressors or the cause of division, simplifying and distorting a history marked by suffering, complexity, and shared culpability. Why does this matter? At stake is not merely academic accuracy, but the very soul of India's future. The nation's strength has always derived from its diversity, its ability to embrace multiple languages, religions, and traditions. By recasting India as a Hindu-only civilization, the BJP risks narrowing the scope of what it means to be Indian, undermining the constitutional promise of secularism that has guided the country since independence. For young Indians, the consequences are profound. A generation raised on these revised textbooks may never learn about the syncretic traditions that have shaped their music, art, and daily life. They may not know that Sufi saints and Bhakti poets inspired each other, or that Mughal architects blended Persian, Indian, and Central Asian elements to create some of the world's most famous monuments. They may see their Muslim classmates as outsiders, rather than inheritors of a shared legacy. The political utility of this historical revisionism is clear. By demonizing the Muslim past, the BJP stokes polarization and consolidates its majoritarian Hindu vote base. The message is subtle but persistent. Today's Muslims are not full inheritors of the Indian identity, but perpetual outsiders. This narrative sows distrust, fuels communal tensions, and makes it easier to justify discriminatory policies. The parallels to Orwell's dystopia are chilling. In 1984, Winston Smith's job is to rewrite old newspaper articles so that the past matches the party's current narrative. What is inconvenient or contradictory simply ceases to exist. The past becomes a tool for political control, and memory itself is manipulated so thoroughly that future generations no longer know what has been lost. Today, historians and educators in India who question the emerging dominant narrative face professional risk, censorship, or dismissal. Public debate is stifled, and critical thinking is discouraged. The consequences extend far beyond classrooms and city signboards. When a society's collective memory is manipulated, its capacity for empathy, self-reflection, and reconciliation is diminished. The erasure of Muslim contributions from Indian civilization is not merely an academic issue. It is a direct threat to India's pluralistic identity, a narrowing of the imagination that once made the country a beacon of coexistence in a fractured world. As Orwell warned, the power to rewrite the past is the power to define the future. The choice facing India is whether to embrace a history that acknowledges its complexities and contradictions, or to settle for a sanitized, homogenized narrative that serves present political interests at the expense of truth and unity. The stakes could not be higher. The story India tells itself today will shape the nation it becomes tomorrow. India's rich heritage is woven from countless threads, cultures, religions, and communities coming together over centuries. The contributions of Muslims and other groups are an integral part of this vibrant tapestry, shaping art, architecture, science, and society. Preserving this inclusive history is essential for future generations. It is up to every citizen to stand together, safeguard the truth, and ensure that India's diverse legacy continues to inspire unity, respect, and pride for all.